welcome everyone to this week's episode of She Talks Business. We are still in our season on $1 Million Mindshare, which I love because I am learning so much from these conversations. And I just feel so blessed that I am able to have conversations with really super awesome, cool, smart, nice people like Andrea Hood. Andrea, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Lisa. I'm excited to be here.
I'm thrilled you're here. So I want to read your bio. And there's a reason that I want to read your bio. So I'm going to read your bio first, and then I'm going to talk about why. So Andrea Hood is the owner and president of Atkinson Carpet and Flooring, a WBE certified commercial flooring company. In 2019, Andrea was honored as one of the top 10 emerging leaders in the commercial flooring industry by Floor Focus magazine, which is huge. An emerging leader, great honor, strong woman, a natural born leader. Andrea guides management team of family members, as well as union installers, to deliver a unique and unmatched experience for clients in both the private and public sectors. She serves the Boston metro area since 1988, and Atkinson Carpet offers a complete turnkey solution for their clients from design to installation. Their main goal is to create functional, beautiful spaces for their clients utilizing state-of-the-art, sustainable materials. Andrea is passionate about 3 things, and the interesting thing is I'm passionate about 2 of them. One, living a healthy lifestyle. She is a graduate of the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, supporting local small business, and it's a bonus if they are family-owned or women-owned, and personal and business finance. She currently lives in Southern New Hampshire with her husband, Alan, and their Shih Tzus, Gus and Abby. So I love that you love money. I love that you are a dog mom like I am. And I love that you are, this badass businesswoman who is in, the flooring industry, which is amazing. I can't wait to hear your unique perspective about working for a family-owned business, leading a family-owned business, working with unionized employees. Like there's so much to unpack here that is not typical for a lot of women in business. But before we dive into that, I want to talk about the bio. Okay. Because I used to record introductions after the show, and I still will go back and I'll record a little something because I always like to kind of tease what we're going to talk about before we get into the show. And last week, a client of mine, M. Roblin, wrote a blog post about an experience that happened to her many, many years ago, where she was doing a keynote on a big stage. And the person who was leading the keynote basically did a really loosey-goosey, familiar introduction of who she is for the audience. And she recounts the story about how she felt off about the talk and the way people responded to her. Everything just felt off. So she did some research. And it turns out when women are powerfully introduced, they rise to the occasion, they deliver more powerful presentations, and they are perceived as more powerful and credible by the audience. But it has no impact on men. So you could do a loosey-goosey,
interesting,
buddy, old Joe, glad you're my dude friend introduction. And a guy doesn't care, but a woman is not only does she respond differently, she is perceived differently from the audience. So when I found this out, I actually went back and re-recorded my introduction for Emily Countryman because I realized I have relationships with every single person that I have on the show. And so I have a tendency to be really casual in terms of the introduction. My tendency would have been like, I love Andrea. I know Andrea through the trust. She's a dog mom. She's cool. She's this, she's that. And that is doing a disservice to women everywhere. So I wanted to share that story because I think it's really important for us to know that and understand that so that we can help each other.
I love it. That's very powerful. I never would have thought of that. And I would have done something like what you were just describing, like, oh, this is my friend Andrea, here she is. But you're right. It's funny when you hear your bio too, you're like, oh yeah, that is me. That is me.
Yeah, that is me. That is
true.
me.
Yeah.
I have done that. And so I think it's really important. And because we're talking about, $1 million mind share, I think that one of and you can let me know your thoughts on this, but I think one of the mindset traps that we fall into is, well, it's not really that big of a deal that I did over $1 million in sales, or I did 7 figures or 8 figures, or I've done it for the last X number of years. Whereas we both know the truth is 2% of women-owned companies do it. So it is a big freaking deal. And you're a unicorn when you do it.
Yes.
So we need
I agree with you 100%. We need, when we heard that statistic at the trust meeting back a month ago in Miami, I was shocked when it was only 2%. I was like, that made it to, I think it was 7 figures. Is that what it was? Yeah, that made it to $1 million. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
None of us?
Dana said that it was 4% pre-COVID, and now it's 2%. Dana Jacoby is who I'm referring to, which is another really sad story, because what it means is 50% of the women who had built 7 figures and beyond businesses had to shift gears because of COVID. They had to bear the burden of taking care of all this other stuff. And 50% of those women-led businesses are no longer in that same category.
It's so sad. It's so sad. It's so sad. I only hope that as we get back to somewhat normalcy in our lives here, that they can get themselves back. But you and I both know that that's probably not the case for at least a portion of them, a good portion of them,
Absolutely.
It's hard to run a business. So if you're out or has even dropped off a little bit for a couple of years, it's hard to get it back up. It can be hard. It can be challenging.
It can be hard, it can be challenging, and we are our own worst critics. So sometimes the stories we tell ourselves about our leadership abilities when things do, slide backwards a little bit isn't necessarily a pretty story. And so it's harder to get that upward momentum. So anyways, let's talk about you.
Okay.
How did you get into this family business and into the leadership role that you have in the business, and what made you decide that you wanted to do this? Because, you hear the good, the bad, and the ugly with respect to family businesses. So tell us a little bit of the background.
Which it all is. The good, the bad, and the ugly, right? I once heard someone say, probably about 10 years ago now, the best part about being in a family business is being in a family business. And the worst part about being in a family business is being in a family business. And I feel that's a very accurate statement for any of your listeners out there who are also in a family business, because it's definitely, it can be challenging at times, but also really, really amazing. So my dad started the company when I was 5 years old. So I kind of grew up watching him. I grew up watching him. I grew up helping him. Back in the day, we had big rolls of carpet that used to get delivered to our house, and he would roll them out and I would help him measure. And then I would, be doing cartwheels and stuff on the carpet. I always worked for him in like middle school and high school, stuff like that during the summer months. And then I went off to college to become a teacher. I always wanted to be a teacher. Yeah. So that's actually my bachelor's degree is in early childhood education.
Wow.
So very different in some ways, but in some ways it's not running a business, right?
Some days I tell my husband it feels like adult daycare.
Yes, 100%.
No disrespect to my team, but some days,
Yes.
I'm glad it's Wednesday.
Yeah. So I was doing my student teaching at a school, a second grade classroom in Cambridge. And I just remember right before I graduated college, and I remember being like, Dad, I don't want to do this. This is not, the public education system is not what I had always envisioned it to be. And it was definitely not something that I could see myself being a part of. And I didn't really have the words for it at the time. I was 22 years old or whatever. And he was like, well, just come work for me over the summer, like you always have, and we'll figure it out. And I was like, okay, we'll figure it out. And here we are 16 years later. And I figured it out a little bit, right? Here and there. So yes, here we are. I became owner majority. So my dad is still an owner. We're partners. So
Mhm.
he's 41% owner. I'm 51% owner. 4 years ago, actually. So we just celebrated our fourth year of being a WBE, woman business enterprise, which is exciting, which is
It
very
is.
exciting. So yeah, I actually had lunch with one of my business colleagues the other day, and she said, "How many family members exactly do you have working for you?" I was like, well, my father, my brother, my husband, two cousins, an uncle. So yeah, we're a crew of total, we have about 20 employees, and a good portion of them are family. And if they're not family, they've worked for us long enough where they basically feel like family. So it's that's how I kind of got here where I am today.
So I'm going to guess that you are in a male dominated
Yes.
business. And my understanding based on what I know of this type of business is you have a retail business and you have a service business that are combined because you're buying you're like,
Kind
when I
of.
say retail, I mean, you're retailing a product, whether
Yes.
it's commercial
Yes.
or and people are paying for the service to have the product installed as well. And
Correct.
so talk to me a little bit about what it's been like for you leading as a woman
Mhm.
in a male dominated space, and talk to me a little bit about what it's like leading in a unionized space.
Yeah, so it's very interesting on both accounts. I would say that when I was younger and first came into the industry before I was owner, it was very interesting watching men's reactions when I would walk into a room and just like whip out my tape measure or like start showing samples or whatever it was. And I get on the ground and I check like the current flooring situation a lot. And I have like this tool, and like I would have men just staring at me like, what is this girl doing? You know what I mean? So that was always, and half the time I was in like a dress or whatever. I was like, whatever. So it is interesting. I will say the older I get, and probably more now that I've stepped into this leadership role, I don't get that as much. I don't get that as much, but sometimes I still do get the, oh, do you, or they'll ask me some sort of stupid question, or in my mind it's stupid, and I'm like, actually, I'm the owner. What can I do for you? Like they're just like, oh, little girl. I'm like, no, I'm the owner.
Yeah,
What do you want?
that happened to me in my retail store years ago. I remember this dude walked in. So I owned a wireless store where you buy cell phone, like an AT&T in Canada. It was a TELUS dealership. And this guy walked in, he had a problem with his phone. And I was trying to help him. No, he can help me. He wanted one of the guys that worked for me to help him because he couldn't figure out this problem. And so what he didn't know is that my nickname was the Wireless Wonder Woman. And
Ooh, I love that.
so when the dudes in the store couldn't fix the problem, they brought it to me. And I was like, there you go. Next time, don't be so presumptuous.
Right. I love that. I love that nickname that you had.
Yeah.
That's good.
So talk to me about unionization, because I think that that's a scary word for a lot of businesses.
It is. And I have a love-hate relationship with it, if I'm being honest. We have always been union. My father actually, when he started out in 1985 as a union installer. So he worked for another company, and then he kind of branched off on his own. He brought some of those guys with him. So we've always been union. I love the union for the reasons that it does, I get great quality labor. I do. They have, a great training program. And our labor is definitely a step above some of the non-union players. I will say that, there's just a difference that you can tell on a job site when it's a union job site compared to when it's non-union. And then, maybe I shouldn't publicly discuss some of my quarrels with the union, but no, I mean, I think it's good. And I think they do have the employees protection, right. At play. We have the union gives great benefits, great pension plan, annuity plan, all those things, which is, I think that is awesome. Because,
right. Do you have flexibility and autonomy as a leader though? Like, have you, without throwing anybody under the bus, right? I understand that. I understand the same when I say adult daycare and I say to my team, I'm just kidding, not really, but do you feel like as a whole, as a leader, you are able to effectively work with the union inside of your organization? Like, has that impacted you in any way?
I feel like yes, overall, yes. a lot of my installers I have brought on, a lot of we'll call them the younger crew. They're my brother's age. They're in their early 30s, and they went to high school with my brother, and they didn't want to go to college afterwards. So they kind of came on, they saw my brother working, they came on board, and we put them through the union. So now they are making six figures with zero college debt. They all own homes, stuff like that. I am like, it makes me so happy. Makes me so happy because I feel like, especially in our area in Southern New Hampshire, it's like, there's a lot of folks that are really lost, and they don't have, or they go to college and then they mount so much debt, and then they don't really end up doing their career. So it's like, it's kind of a weird spot, so I'm very happy that we have so many installers that are just like, have made a good life for themselves.
Right.
But there were certain times, especially during COVID, I mean, it was the beginning of COVID, and we had everything shut down, right? Everything shut down, and the union's telling us we can't work. Yet my installers wanted to work. And I had clients that were like, well, no, I need some jobs done. The buildings are empty. Please come in. And I'm like, I can't. So luckily it only lasted a few weeks. And then we were labeled essential workers. So the union allowed us to work again. But there is some certain times, like stuff like that, where I'm like, well, if my guys want to work, if it's safe for them to work, the clients want us to work, like, why can't I work? You know what I mean? So there's certain situations like that, which thankfully doesn't happen too much, and hopefully COVID's done. So hopefully.
Hopefully. We have decided it's over.
Yeah, I've decided. I'm like, I'm not doing that again. Like, I'm not shutting
down
again. Done.
Yeah.
Done.
So I'm curious if there was a young woman listening right now, and she was considering whether or not she should career path into her family business, whether it was run by her father or her mother or both. What advice would you give her in terms of navigating her career in a family-owned environment based on your experience?
This is a great question. I love this. So I would say, think about your family dynamic. My family, my brother, my father, and I are all very, very close. And that has helped us create the successful business that we have created. Because even before I took ownership over, my brother and I were significantly growing the business. And basically we doubled the business in a matter of a few years.
Great.
Yeah. And my dad really supported us doing that, so we have a very tight knit relationship. And I would say, to someone, I would say that can be a blessing or a curse. For us, it's been a blessing. It has. I do know that there are certain topics, we'll say, that are easier if there's some sort of mediator that helps us if we're having a struggle with the conversation about the business. So find yourself some sort of, for us, it's my CPA. She's a great kind of middleman for topics that sometimes we can butt heads on. So I would say, find yourself someone like that, a trusted resource, whether it's a business coach or consultant or a banker or a CPA or what have you. So I think that really helps as well. I think that there's a lot of give and take in a family business. There's a lot of give and take. So sometimes you kind of have to well, this is my family. I'm not going to have World War III over this because they're my family. And at the end of the day, that's what matters the most, which can be tricky sometimes in business, as I'm sure you can understand.
Yes, I terminated a family member once. My husband's brother, and my husband came into the back room and I'm like, I just fired your brother. He's like, what?
Sorry, but how do? It's tricky. It's definitely tricky.
Yeah.
You have to have a strong backbone. You do, because there's some times where it's like, oh, this is tough. Yeah. Absolutely. But it's very rewarding too, because our wins, we've been having some great years. Like I said, we've doubled the business, everything like that. It's awesome to be doing it with the ones that I love the most and the ones that I trust the most. You know what I mean? I trust my dad and I trust my brother. My brother's not a partner, but he basically is, even though he's not.
Right.
Sorry, there's a car alarm going off.
I can hear that. I can hear that. That's okay. That's
Should
okay.
We wait if it subsides? I'm sorry about that.
No, you know what? It's life. It is what it is. My dogs could start barking at any moment.
There you go. Right.
So I'm curious, you said that you and your brother, you doubled the business. Doubling the business is great. I love, like, I grew my business by 50% 3 years in a row, which was, remarkable.
Good.
But that type of growth also creates a whole bunch of problems. So, what have been some of the hardest parts of growth for you inside of the company that you've had to deal with?
I would say there's two ones that really stick out in my mind. When it was first happening, um, finance, financing it all.
Mm-hmm.
Financing it all was, and that was when I had like, just as I was becoming owner. So that was like very scary to me, thinking about like credit lines and like that whole concept was like
Right.
frightening to me now. Not, it's like a breeze now. But I would say the financing part was definitely a struggle because as you're growing, you need to finance it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really easy to get into a scarcity mindset around not wanting, because you're basically hedging, you're risking,
Yes.
you're investing in the growth of your business. And I'm talking about real investing. I'm not talking about this. I spent all my profits because I invested it back in my business,
Yeah.
BS that you hear people say. I'm talking about serious, I need capital investments in labor, and I need
I need to make
more
payroll every week.
material.
I need to buy
Exactly.
materials. Like that was a challenge. And it was definitely made me grow up real fast and definitely made me step into a leadership role real fast,
Yeah.
I would say the other one, and it still continues to be a little bit of a, I don't want to say struggle, but definitely an area that we have a little bit of a hard time. Oh, thank goodness that stopped. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Is finding, even though we're union, the Boston metro area is like booming right now. And we're in the Boston metro area. It's like, it's booming right now. So to try to like call the union hall to get installers is tricky, and get them to exactly how we do business and how we do floors is a little bit different than other folks in our area and what we specialize in. And so finding that quality labor
Mhm.
can be a challenge for sure. And it still is, right now we have 14 installers, which is great. It's the most we've ever had. But I know like this summer is always our busiest month. We'll call it Memorial Day through Labor Day, our busiest
Mhm.
season. And I could probably use another 5 to 10 installers, especially this summer. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that. You know what I mean? So it definitely kind of puts a cap on how much business we can actually do.
Mhm.
Or so that's a little bit of a, those are, I would say, the financing, especially in the beginning when as we were growing, and now finding the labor to continue to grow as we grow,
Right.
can be a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would love to know um how you, like, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how you manage the finances. Like, what are some of the things, because when I read your bio, you say that you love personal and business finance. So walk me through your the shrewdness of your eye when you're looking at your financial statements. Like, what are the things that you're looking for? How are you making decisions around, I need to invest more here, I need to reduce costs here? Because one of the things that I have found for a lot of businesses is growth doesn't necessarily mean growth on the bottom line.
It's very true.
So I'd love to hear kind of some of the things that you look at or you consider when it comes to managing the finances of the business to keep the business as profitable and successful as possible as it grows.
Well, I will say this, and I think this is, as a family business, I think a family business kind of factors into that, in the sense that when it comes to the inside business operations, the sales, the project management, we are extremely lean. We are
Mhm.
extremely lean. So that helps keep costs down, right? That's a huge thing for us. So it's me, it's my dad, it's my brother doing all the sales, all the project management. So it's a lot. And then we have a controller who's actually not a family member, who kind of does the day-to-day books, the does all the controlling
Right.
of finances. So I'll say running a lean team is definitely definitely a huge part in helping keeping the profits up and keeping a low overhead, especially here in Massachusetts. Overhead is very costly, especially with my union installers that are making six figures.
Mhm.
So another thing I have to be very mindful of is when I'm running jobs, running the jobs lean as well, and not putting, 15 installers on one job when it could handle 5
Right.
and still make me money at the end of the day if it's just handling 5, right? So I would say that's another thing, is just kind of keeping my eyes on the metrics, I guess you could say, of it all, of the inner workings. That kind of helps. Another thing that's also coming to my mind is a lot of our manufacturers that we do business with also give us discounts if we pay our bills either on time or early.
Mm.
We try to grab those discounts when we can, because those can really add up. I want to say last year we got almost six figures in discounts. I mean,
Yeah.
that's someone's salary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot when you really factor those small amount, $500 here, $1,000 there, $200 there. It really does add up. It really does add
Yeah.
up, which is
Yeah,
nice.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. One of the things that we do in our business is we try to do a project profitability assessment. Because
Mm,
to your point, when we quote a project as an example, let's say we're doing somebody's website, we make assumptions around how much time it's going to take and, what is going to be involved in order to get the project done. And sometimes our assumptions are great and sometimes they're completely flawed and the profitability is really squeezed. And so what I have found is helpful is to actually spreadsheet all
mm,
of those profitability assessments so that I can start to see the averages on projects to
right.
help me better forecast. For example, a homepage takes X amount of hours for design, copy, and development, not Y. We thought it was Y, but really it's X, right? And then you
Yes,
can
yes.
start to make better assumptions as you move forward. But I'm like you, if you don't look at the numbers, you don't really know what's going on. When we had
Mhm.
our call, our trust call, and Andrea, the other Andrea, was talking about how she goes through her GL with a highlighter and she highlights, the expenses that are good, the expenses that need to be investigated, and the expenses that need to go away. I love that idea, like color coding the
Mhm.
green, yellow, red. I thought it was a really, really brilliant way to look at the line item details in your business. Because I think that there are things, to your point, when you have the cash flow to pay on time or pay in advance, you can save money. But the other thing I think we all need to do a better job of keeping our eye on is our subscription-based
Yes,
services.
yes.
They're crazy. Like
They add up.
they
Just
totally
like
add
the
up.
discounts that I was saying, we grab the discounts. We also try to keep those other things in line too, because it does add up. It does add up. And right now, what's really adding up too is our gas, because
Mhm.
we have a fleet of 12 vehicles. Three of them are trucks, which, I mean, it costs me a couple $100s to fill up a truck, and we have
Right.
to fill them up every few days. So it's really keeping an eye on that, and like going to the gas stations that have a little bit more, 5 cents here or there really adds up when you're filling up a few times a week on 12 vehicles.
It's true. It's
you
really,
know,
really true. How are you finding inflation and supply chain affecting your business?
this is a doozy. It's a doozy. It's really challenging right now. I'm not going to lie. It has been since probably the beginning. We weren't really affected in 2020. I will say that. 2021, however, it started. I mean, some of my manufacturers I work with, I probably work with a dozen, but I would say I work with 3 to 5 regularly. I have good
Mhm.
close relationships with those folks. And I mean, they were giving me 3 to 4 price increases last year. I've already had price increases this year. I'm having, another one, and it's a lot. Last summer, we couldn't get adhesive anywhere because of the freeze that happened in Texas in February. That's where a lot of the adhesives are made. So we had like no adhesive.
Oh
So we were
no.
being like super stingy with our adhesive last summer, which was fun. Now this year, it seems like that problem is solved. Now we're having yarn manufacturing issues for the carpet yarns. So now I'm having lead times that used to be 2 to 4 weeks are 12 weeks. So I'm
Mhm.
already trying to get on my summer clients and being like, we have to order product now. Like I have to get your materials ordered now. Like you can't wait until June when you want your project done in August. Like we don't have that time. So it's been challenging for sure. I will say that all of the carpet that we work with, which is a lot of carpet, is all made, most of, I think all the carpet pretty much in the United States is made in the United States, which is nice. So I don't have that like overseas container ship issues.
Right.
I did have it with luxury vinyl tile, LVT, those like wood looking planks that you're starting to see everywhere.
Yeah.
A lot of that comes from Asia or Europe. So there was issues getting that last summer. And in the fall, and we'll see what happens this year with that. But yeah, so it's definitely been interesting. There's definitely a lot of struggles on things you wouldn't think of, yarn, adhesive, you know?
Yeah. I find it interesting, you know, you're talking about some of your suppliers doing multiple price increases in a year. And I had a conversation with somebody just via Messenger last night who has started their own home-based business. And, you know, they're like, you know, I'm small potatoes compared to some of the people that you work with, but, you know, what would you tell me I should do in order to grow my business? And I said, well, you know, tell me what you want the outcome to be. And then when I looked at what they wanted the outcome to be, and I looked at their service model, I said, your prices are too low. Like, you need to increase your prices. You need to increase them to this. And the response was like, oh, but I'm already high compared to other people. I'm like, you're not high enough. Mm-hmm. So how do you communicate the price increase to your clients? And are you able to, like, I find so many women get emotionally invested in, you know, sharing that a price has gone up. And what I said to this person last night is, does Starbucks ask you permission when they raise their prices, or do they just raise their prices?
Or the gas companies that are now raising our prices at the pump. You know, I would say I think I have two things to say on that. One, I will say that people right now are very aware of all the price increases happening and the inflation that's happening and the gas and the material delays. So I will say that clients have been very like, okay, like nobody's really been like, hey, listen, I'm really sorry, but this product has now gone up, you know, 15% from when I quoted you last September. And they're like, okay, you know, I will say that nobody has really barked back at that. And I'm trying to be very transparent and also upfront about that. I try never to hit, it's kind of our company motto, which I think is different from a lot of contractors. We don't want to hit people with change orders. I like to upfront the cost, like, here you go. So as you were saying, you know, before, sometimes the profit margin might be a little bit less at the end of the day, but I still feel like, okay, I feel better about that. And I get a lot of repeat business that way because they know what to expect with me. They know what to expect. So just trying to project that accurately. And now I totally forget the other thing I was going to say. Don't you love that? Totally.
That's okay.
Out the door, out the window.
It will come to you. So
wait, I just remembered.
I told you.
Wait, look at that. I will say that when I first started out in the business 16 years ago, we weren't doing the volume that we're doing now. So I would get much more attached to like, oh, I didn't get that job because I was priced too high or whatever it was. And I would be like more emotional about it. Now our volume is so high that it's like, okay, next, I'll just quote the next job. I'll get the next one. Like I don't have the time or the energy, or I don't allow myself to put the energy into, oh man, I lost that one. I'm just like, okay, moving on next, removing that emotional attachment to it, which does get easier with time and when you're doing more volume.
Yeah. I think that's a really important point. It's, you know, I have what I call a PGA fee at times, and PGA stands for please go away, meaning that I price things so high that it's because we're so busy that I'm not attached to getting the business. So I price it so high that if I do get the business, I'm okay with it because and then that fee becomes my new normal because, oh, well, I guess that fee's not too high for the market because they didn't go away, right? It's not a please go away as in, I don't want to work with them. It's more of a, you know, please go. I'm not attached to getting the business right now. So it's, I agree with you. Attachment is a really big part of what trips a lot of women up in business. And I
Mm.
think we all have to do a better job of saying next and not being so attached to some of those things. I just went through this whole thing with a client that has been with me for years where we had to increase our pricing. And I had been this believer that you should grandfather fees. And I realized that that was the wrong way of thinking in a service-based business, because my employees get raises and the cost of doing business has gone up, and I need to pass that along to the buyer in order for the business to remain profitable. And so there was all this, story in my head around how the client was going to respond. And they were like, okay, no problem. So I think
Isn't that
sometimes
funny?
the stories we tell ourselves are so powerful
Yes.
compared to how people respond. So,
Yes, I
all
agree.
right. So, I'd love to know what one of your greatest lessons has been in your business. So, I'd love for you to share a mistake you made and what you learned from that mistake and how it's shaped you as a leader in your company. Because I think that we often we look out the window at these other people running these successful businesses, and it's it's the Instagram feed, right? We think they're perfect, we think they never make mistakes, they never fall down, and it's not really, life is not Pinterest perfect, and neither is business. So
Neither.
can you share somewhere a story of something that went wrong, what you learned from it?
I will say it's maybe not anything super specific, but an overall
Mhm.
not trusting myself,
That's a good one.
not listening. I'm a very intuitive person. I told you earlier, I'm kind of a hippie. I'm very intuitive. I like to listen to my gut. I like to go out in nature and just kind of feel how I'm feeling. And there has been times when I haven't listened to my gut, even though my gut's been screaming at me, like, no, do this instead. You know what I mean? And just being like, why are you doing this? Don't do that. Don't do that. Do this instead. So I will say that listening to my gut has been, not listening was the good mistake. And now listening has helped. It helps.
Mhm.
I always trust my gut now, always 100% of the time. It never steers you wrong. I can share an example if you'd like of something that trusting my gut helped me with.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have a lot of COVID stories, but a lot happened. We grew a
Mhm.
lot as business owners. I feel like during COVID,
You had to, or your business wouldn't survive.
Exactly. So, and here's a great example of that. So in April 2020, they announced the PPP,
Mhm.
and we were waiting for our bank we had a big national bank. We were waiting for our bank to let us know when we could apply for the PPP. And in my head, I was like, they don't care about us smaller businesses. I mean, this is a national chain. They're doing business with, $1 billion a year companies, whatever. They don't care about my mom and pop flooring company. They don't care about us like they care about those guys, right? So I said, my gut was telling me to start looking at local banks. My gut was telling me, I had wanted to switch to a local bank for a while. So I did, and it took some convincing of others. I'll say that to trust my gut, and me basically being like, you need to listen to me on this. This is right. I know I'm right. And I investigated a local bank,
Mhm.
and I reached out to them. They said they were, I said, are you accepting PPP applications for non-clients? They said yes. We sent them our application that day. I heard back from them within 5 minutes. Within 3 or 4 days, I had the money in my account,
Wow.
and it was a lot of money because we are a union company and my installers make a lot of money. And it was for paying our installers for 8 weeks. It was a lot of money. It was a lot of money, and we got that, and that carried us. I swear that carried us. If we hadn't gotten that, I think we would have been in a lot more tricky situation, for the 6 to 12 months that followed that. So I'm very happy that I listened to my gut on that and I followed that through. And then within, less than a week, it paid off and it helped our business, and it kept giving my installers paychecks, kept their, because with the union, you get your benefits based on your hours worked. So it kept all
Right.
their health benefits, kept their pension benefits, everything like that, which is very important to me. And then we ended up doing the full switch over to this bank. And I'm very happy with the service they're giving us, extremely happy.
Great.
So I feel like that's a good example of listening to your gut and just going. And you know what happened is that our big national bank like never reached out to us, nothing. They ended up, it's been so messy over there. So I'm just really glad that we made the switch and I listened to what I knew was right.
Yeah. A lot of times we don't listen to our gut. And I think it is a mistake. I think we have to trust our instincts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have to pay attention to, like, you almost need to document an evidence log of all the times we trusted our gut and what the outcome was to build the courage and confidence to keep trusting our gut. Because I think sometimes we forget when we take those risks, or we forget that our gut told us to zig and we didn't zig, we zagged, and then things didn't turn out. So I think it's an important lesson for us to be mindful of.
Yes.
All right. I have one more question for you before we wrap up. And that is, this is my favorite question. What would you say your entrepreneurial superpower is?
Ooh. Honestly, I think it's that. And I hate to beat that into the ground, but listening to my gut, I really do think that's I am someone who's very intuitive, down to the fact that I know when a client reaches out or something like I know when a job's going to be successful. I have a feeling when it's not going to be. I know when we need to sign up to work with this person or that. I have an inner knowing. I do. And I do think that is my superpower, not just in business, but in life in general too. So again, I hate to pound that into the ground, but I think that is my superpower, my intuition.
That is okay, but let's talk about it. So,
yes.
I'm reading a book right now. Oh gosh, I didn't even forget. I think it's called Stolen Focus. And it talks about how our worlds have changed so much. We are so freaking addicted to screens and notifications. And, we're not, it talks in the book about how most people can't even read a book anymore because they can't focus long enough to read a book. And so can you break it down for me? What is it that you specifically do to be attuned to your intuition versus fall into the trap of being distracted by everything else?
Oh, I like that. I like that question. I coined a term from Tom Brady. I'm not a sports person at all. But I love when Tom Brady said this a few years ago, is that he is laser focused. So that's how I drown out the noise and I keep myself laser focused so I can listen to myself. By that, I mean, I have a huge morning routine that takes me hours, but it helps set me up for the day. It helps get me focused. I meditate or do yoga. I go for a walk outside with the dogs. I go in my sauna, then I get ready. Then I eat a healthy breakfast. All these things help set me up for my day. Because if I just am rushing out the door, if I don't work out or whatever, I'm just all frazzled. And then if I'm frazzled, I can't listen to my intuition. I can't listen to it. Another thing that I do is I don't really utilize social media at all for my business because it's just not in tune with my business. With a business like yours, it makes more sense. You know what I mean? Business like mine, I can't really find the right fit. So I'm you know what? I can't find the right fit. I struggle with it for a bit. I'm I'm just not going to do it. Just going to take it off the table. Again, focusing to not waste my time doing something that isn't at the end of the day bringing us more business, to allow me to listen to the things that can bring more business and be more present with my clients and things like that, So I feel I do a very good job of drowning out the noise and just putting on tunnel vision, laser focus, stick to what I know works best for me and my body so that I can listen to that intuition come through. Because when we're so busy, we don't hear the intuition. Or when we drown out the, do this. Oh, I got to do that because this person's doing it. I got to do that. I just drown it all out, laser focus. It's taken years and it's taken practice. It's not like it just happens overnight, but I do think that helps.
Do you have a practice like journaling and asking yourself questions, or is it just natural in the moment? You're just paying attention?
I would say it's more natural in the moment, paying attention. I really don't journal. It's not something that I found in my self-care practice to be what I enjoy doing.
Mhm.
I give myself a lot of downtime. When I'm not working, I'm doing self-care, a lot of self-care. I do. I just love to do. I could spend a whole day just like doing yoga and going for walks and cooking in the kitchen, which is also like, very zen for me, and taking an Epsom salt bath. Like I'm very much a hippie like that. So, but I know that it helps me stay laser focused. I
Right.
need that downtime. I'm a Taurus and I need to be very grounded. If I'm not
Right.
grounded, I'm all over the place.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's great. I'm I'm very intuitive as well. My grandmother used to say that I was part witch like her. And there's lots of
I love it.
times where I have uh seeked out inner guidance to help me think through problems. And I've asked for signs to
Mhm.
show
Yeah.
me that I am on the right track. And it's all worked really, really well for me. The challenge is I'm not as laser focused as you. And so sometimes I forget to do it. So it's
Well,
really
I think
great.
it's common to forget. You know what I mean? It's kind of bring yourself back to it though, because you have it in you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I do that too.
Oh,
I ask for signs a lot.
yeah. Cool. Well,
I
this
love
has
it.
been fantastic. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you
We
for
are going
having me.
to, I know that, there's a small percentage of listeners on the show who may be, in the market for your services. So we will definitely link to all the right places in the show notes for you.
Awesome. Thank you.
But I love having conversations with women who are not running, I'm going to call them, traditional online businesses that,
Mhm.
you're running a real business with,
Mhm.
and it's not to say that online businesses are not real, but it's different. I know I've run a retail store. I understand like when you're dealing with cost of goods and multiple employees and services and quotes and all that, it's like, it's different. And so I love that you were able to share such a unique perspective with us today. And I love that you were able to kind of talk about the inner workings of a family-based business, because I think that's super, super valuable for people.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you for having me. I've enjoyed our conversation as well. So this has been great. I hope your viewers or your listeners found it useful as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrea. And thank you for listening to She Talks Business. I would love to hear from you. You can follow me on Instagram at Lisa Larter. Send me a direct message and tell me, what is your entrepreneurial superpower? I would love to know that, because I think we all have one, but I don't know that we all know what it is. We will see you again next time.